This conference will now be recorded.
You're live, just start over
now. I don't have to do that whole spiel. All right, okay, I want to make sure that's not violating. Public comments. Do we have anyone here in person that would like to address the policy board? Seeing here none, do we have anyone online now that we're being recorded?
We have several members online, but no comments.
Okay, very good. Moving on to item number 3 on the agenda is a staff update. You're right.
Good morning, Judge, Policy Board. The staff update, as you'll see on the screen and in your packet, we have the upcoming KTMPO meetings listed. Typically, the meetings are the first and third Wednesday of the month. As you'll see in the dates, the Technical Advisory Committee meeting is July 12th. That was moved to mitigate from possible lack of quorum due to 4th of July. So that meeting's been pushed back a week. All the others are first and third, I believe, first and third Wednesdays. Other updates, we have the UPWP, which is our internal planning budgetary document that we're currently working on. Once we have that drafted, we will share it with everybody, but it will be ultimately go through a process where it's seen here, members can review, and then we'll make any revisions that y'all may think we need, and then we'll submit it to TxDOT for approval. We'll then send it to Federal Highways for approval. So it's a little bit of a process. The Bell County Thoroughfare Plan update, we are coming to an end with that project. Hopefully that'll be on the Commissioner's Court agenda for approval and adoption within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully by mid-July at the latest. We were waiting on some additional information from the county. I believe they've hit a couple roadblocks getting that information that they were wanting included. So once I know more from Judge Blackburn, we'll be able to schedule that meeting for approval and adoption of the Bell County Thoroughfare Plan. There is an MTP administrative amendment, which is the US 190 project. That was just to add a project into our MTP for the 190. That was a request from the TxDOT Brownwood District. No actions needed by the board. It just needed to be in the UTP in our unscored and unfunded list.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying hello to somebody.
The other thing I have is not listed in your packet. I, myself and a couple other staff members had a conversation with the MPOs down the I-35 corridor from Fort Worth to Laredo. If you recall, a couple years ago, we were going through the planning process for a transportation study for high-speed rail from Fort Worth to Laredo. That study came to an end a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. North Central Texas Council of Governments MPO was contacted by a Hyperloop company who put us all on a call together, all the MPOs down that corridor, and said, hey, we're a Hyperloop company. We'd like to know if you're interested in possibly doing a feasibility study for this technology to run from Fort Worth to Laredo. We were on that call. They are looking to see if there is some consensus on us possibly moving forward and supporting a feasibility study for that technology down through from Fort Worth to Laredo. In addition, if there are any MPOs that have areas that they feel may be beneficial for a test track capability, it's 5 or 10 mile section of track that they have to put up to test this technology and certify it before they can move forward with any real long range transportation. There are more conversations about this that are going to happen probably, but I was really just looking to see if, you know, in this part of the agenda and with the information that we're just now getting, if this was something possibly the policy board was interested in us exploring. Possibly my thought was maybe to test track from the Killeen area to 35 as the proposed Hyperloop technology is going to go down the 35 corridor, to see if maybe that was even an interest with the policy board, or if there wasn't really any interest in that technology or support for us planning those efforts in this region. So that's what I have for that.
Is there any reason not to?
I don't believe so. Like I said, they're looking to see if we would support a feasibility study for this. They do have a, technology is all impressive to me, but, I'm a simple-minded guy. But they do have, the technology is a Hyperloop technology that if for some reason we were to do a certification track, and found out the technology wasn't everything they thought it was going to be, that they could then revert to just a high-speed rail system on the same track infrastructure that they were developing. So
You're right. Didn't we receive a presentation about Hyperloop? Hyperloop some years ago.
I believe Virgin, maybe Virgin came in and talked about, this is called TransPod.
Did Virgin do a feasibility study?
No.
I thought they did sometimes.
They were just part of that original planning study, transportation planning study. And now they're moving to a feasibility study with, they're looking with the TransPod system. Yes, sir.
What's the cost associated with it, or are they going to be funding that?
This would be funded solely by the private entity. To my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, James, but the feasibility study, test track and certification was all going to be funded by them.
Where are they going to put it, and how are they going to use it right away?
Well, I think that's part of the feasibility study, but right now the general line is down the 35 corridor. So it would be somewhere right around 35. Like I said, the certification / test track, my thought was if that was something the board was interested in and be responding saying we may be possibly interested in that, would run down next to 14 somewhere before it could.
You're right, if they're not asking for money to support a feasibility study in any way from any of this group, what would be the negatives of supporting a feasibility study?
I don't see any at this time. Like I said, I was just looking for a general consensus so I can report back to the MPO group to say our policy board is generally in agreement with moving forward with the feasibility study. And possibly even getting somebody from TransPod or North Central Texas who spearheaded this to come in and present on the technology and the study as well.
Right.
Yes.
This is really an interesting topic to me. I have a history of building the light rail system down in Houston. And I would just throw this one piece out. Anything having to do with rail takes a long time. And the biggest mistake always made, it seems like, and Houston definitely made this mistake. They waited, they knew they would need it eventually, but they waited too late to start the process. So by the time I came around and we were actually starting construction, the cost was about 70% higher because of not starting early. And that cost came through because now instead of just buying a piece of right-of-way, we had to buy a piece of right-of-way that had Burger King on it, and we had to go rebuild Burger King someplace. So it just exponentially, it adds up. The key to anything rail is to get on it early. Otherwise, cost will go up.
Right.
Significantly.
Like I said, that's just an update. If you have questions or concerns about it, you can reach out to me. I guess I can plan on responding to them, telling them that we're interested in moving forward, especially with the feasibility study and possibly getting somebody from North Central or the TransPod folks down here to present to the policy board to see what the dynamic is. And the last thing I have for staff update is the air quality readings, which were 63 and 60 parts per billion. With that, I will open any questions for staff update.
Any questions or comments from the staff? Hearing none, thank you, Ryan. Moving on to item number 4, which is an action item regarding the approval of the minutes from the May 17th, 2023 meeting. We'll open the floor for comments. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve last month's minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes and a second from Mr. Avalaw. Any further comments on item number 4? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 5 on the agenda is a discussion and action item regarding Resolution 2023-06, approving the submittal of the FY2022 Annual Project List, the APL. That's in pages 18 and 19 of your packet. James.
Thanks, Judge. Just a quick reminder, the annual project listing, this is something that we have submitted to TxDOT every year for a while now. This year, it includes projects that had federal funds obligated to them in the past year, fiscal year, and this year they said that we needed to do some public involvement as required by the federal regulations. So we did that. We had a public comment period from May 22nd to June 5th, the public meeting on May 25th, and there were no comments received. The TAC did recommend approval of this resolution that's in your packet at their meeting on June 7th. That's all I have.
Thank you, James. With that, I'd open up the floor for discussion. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We've got a motion to approve Resolution 2023-06.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion on item number 5? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 6 on the agenda is a discussion and action item regarding the initiation of public involvement or amendments to the FY23-26 TIP and the 2045 MTP for projects. James.
Thank you, Judge. We have quite a few amendments to our TIP and MTP, and I'll make a note before I go through each one that there were a couple differences from what was shown at our TAC meeting 2 weeks ago. The first one is the Georgetown Railroad Phase 1 project. That one is back in April, the policy board approved funding for the carbon reduction program, and this is one of the projects that was approved. We have gotten the go-ahead from TxDOT to switch that funding process over. That funding can be used in FY24. Since this one currently has 3 different funding categories on it and the federal amount is increasing, we decided to go with the actual formal amendment. They told us we could do administrative for all of these. It's just a funding category change, but that one was not showed to the TAC in 2 weeks ago. And then they were showed a project to remove, there was a project in Nolanville that has previously let, and TxDOT told us that since we need to keep it in the TIP, even though it's let, until the next TIP the new TIP is formed. So they approved that, but that's not shown in your packet at this time. Of the 8 projects, 6 of them are amendments and 2 of them are new projects. And I'll just go through the proposed amendments real quick. For the 13th Avenue sidewalk improvements, we're transferring some local funding to Category 9 funding. So the federal share will increase by approximately $92,000, and this is to match what TxDOT has in their system. We didn't have it correct beforehand. This is a project in Troy on West Main Street and Luther Curtis Road, and where there was some funding changes that had to do with the SRSA. We received some SRSA funding last couple of years ago, and there was some changes with the debt ceiling bill where if that funding wasn't obligated, we were going to lose it. And so TxDOT helped us shift that funding over to another project that had already let. And the result for this project is there was money that was designated local match that's now going to be state match. And so we're moving that over, and it's going to decrease the local share for the city by about $400,000. Chaparral Road Phase 1, the amendment would be to move the let date back a year to FY26. This is to accommodate the timeline that they're looking at. And it's going to take them a little bit longer at this point. Salado, Royal Street, the village submitted a request to just about double the cost of the project and keep the original scope. So the federal share, which is what the MPO covers, is increasing by about $875,000. The local share will increase by about $200,000. We're also moving the let date back here to FY2024. The new cost is $2.1 million for them to rehabilitate Royal Street. And like I mentioned for the Georgetown Railroad Phase 1 earlier, there's some complicated different funding sources, and since we're consolidating it into one and moving some completely local dollars to an 80% federal, 20% local split, we wanted to put this through the regular formal amendment process with the other projects. And then the last amendment is to the Commerce Code bypass, and there's some pending funding increases in the next UTP to account for inflation costs. So that's what these increases are. The MPO doesn't, the district is the one that manages the Cat 4 dollars, but we do show that in our MTP. So showing that for your information. If you're looking in the meeting packet, there are 3 different tip sheets for this project because it's a large project and it has different sections. The numbers here are the totals combined for all 3 tip sheets. And then the last 2 are the new projects. This is the Loop 363 overpass to add intersections or interchanges at the Lucius McKelvey Drive and Industrial Boulevard, where 363 goes through there. This project was previously in our FY21 to 24 tip. Several years ago, we ran into some fiscal constraint issues, or the state did rather, and we had to push it back several years. And now it is moved back into the timeline for the tip, and there's new money available, so we're adding it back in and to our tip to let in FY 2026. That date is wrong. It should be 2026. And the last project is funding, and this is another carbon reduction program project that was approved back in April to give the HOP some money to capital expenditures on technology in support of their new micro transit services. The MPO amount is just over $900,000. The total project cost also includes a stage here, which I believe the HOP gets transportation development credits for that portion of the costs. Here's a financial summary. The top table shows the current budget and programmed amounts, and then the bottom table shows the newly proposed amounts with the amendments and the change from the previous amount. There are some negative numbers there at the bottom. For the category 10, when we approved projects, we also included the FY27 amount. In our tip, we only showed 26. If there's an issue with that, we'll move one of the later projects back a year, and then in the new tip, we'll bring it in. And then for Cat 2, I think some of that is because the state covers the match, and we include that in our total cost, but in our tip, it shouldn't be an issue with getting that approved. Last thing I'll mention before I'll take any questions is there are 3 other projects that were approved under the carbon reduction program, and that's West Rancier Ave in Killeen, the Williams Road sidewalks in Salado, and the East 6th Avenue in Belton. We're making a change. Those were category 7. We're moving them to category 10. But since they're only category 7, they're just going to be administrative. We're not putting them through the formal process. The dollar amount here does include the cost for those projects. That's a lot of information. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's a lot of information. Thank you, James. With that, I would open the floor for discussions, comments, or questions.
Judge Belton? Sir, I had a question about Project 35-01, Copper School Bypass Project. It still shows a let date of 2026 in the documents. And just a question, next time, that date was going to change. From what I've heard, it is, but officially it's still showing 2026.
So what's the question? Why is it showing up 2026?
Yes.
So 2026 is the current lighting date of the project, and part of the program, the Rapid Stack program that we've been talking about, is that we offer up these projects to administration, saying we'll have these projects ready with money sooner. If with other districts, project falters, and they have a hole that they need to fill with, $127 million. So that date that we're giving administration for this project is April of 2024 is when we can have it ready. We had to go through this UTP cycle to get additional funds added to it to cover it. And then we're still waiting on an IHAR that has to go through FHWA. That's not going to be approved until September, October timeframe. And then by the time you do your SIP revision, April, we might even go up to February, but right now April's the safest date that we can say we can have this. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed in April, and the letting date still has to stay in 26 until they give us the green light to move it. But it could go any time between April and 2026 when they find a spot that they'd like to put it in. There will be a lot of spots coming up in the next 2 fiscal years. Yeah.
Can we discuss W3507, the Loop 363 overpasses?
No.
We need to. Because we talked about this project on a lot of levels of the city.
No, that was tacky.
That was tacky.
There was.
Mr. Chairman, may we please?
Yes.
Anybody? Same, sorry. Y'all thought I was gonna lead this.
All right.
Sorry about that. Need some additional info on that.
Same answer for the last project. However, it doesn't have to have an IAGR because there's no interstate involved. And just due to the processes in the UTP and the STIP, we're putting the earliest let date for this one is February 2024.
Okay.
And it's the same vote. It has to get picked. We can't just move up unless they ask us to put up to fill up again. So
Okay, and who is that?
that would be administration and TechStop, Austin. Okay. So what it is, they.
Because I can tell you, we'll ask you to move it up. We are today.
I want this off my desk. I'll be happy to get both of these moved up and out the door. But no, what it is, statewide, TxDOT administration, they want to have a level letting across all of the 25 districts of TxDOT. They don't want to have these huge months here and then a small month here. They want the same amount let for the agency to be able to handle all the construction in a level way. And so, like I said, what happens if you have Dallas district that, say in February, they had an $86 million job or somewhere about that money, but they were going to let February and something happened, they hit an environmental constraint or something that pulled the project. But we have this ready to go. We can say, hey, we'll take their spot. Yeah. So that way we keep the workload. Yeah.
Okay.
But to both of y'all, I want both of these projects out the door. So I'm doing everything I can to get them going. So the longer they linger around, the more money we can have to put on. So,
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Victor, if we didn't take anything down to Austin, there and I will go down.
All right, very well.
And again, that is at the state administrative level. They're making those decisions. So hypothetically, if they had 100+ million, there's not, at this point, we understand, or at least I understand, there's the selection of those projects are independent of where they're prioritized within the NPO. In other words, Temple's project, we got a let date of 2025, Copper's Cove is 2026. If the amount came out that would cover the Copper's Cove project, it is feasible that they would select that over the Temple project simply because that funding amount was available, not prioritized based off of how we have the let dates.
I think they're going to look at the puzzle piece, the size of the puzzle piece and what they need. And they're going to consult with us before they just say, hey, move this one up. They're going to say, hey, would you rather do this one or that one and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of moving parts, but let me just say this, is that on the next two letting cycles for FY24 and 25, they're wanting to let statewide about $12 billion each year. And you can go into TxDOT Connect right now, and you can look and see how much statewide is programmed, and there's still a shortfall. They're not hitting the 12 billion for FY24. They're lacking, I think, about 500 million that they still need to program to hit that amount. They'll probably go over it a little bit just to have a buffer. And then in FY26, I believe there's like a $3 billion hole that needs to be filled with these projects. Or FY25, not 26. So 24 and 25 are going to be really big years, front loaded those years. And in my honest opinion, these being fully funded and clean projects, I don't see why either one of them, or why both of them won't get chosen to be moved up and less. So,
Back to your point, these projects already have funding attached to them. They're not bringing funding to them up. They're already fully funded before we can start moving around, just for the letting process, just to keep that level across the state. Victor and I, we're the ones that are sitting there like, yeah, that was great, you know, we're kind of like horses in the game ready to run a race, you know, but they're fully funded before they can be considered to be.
That's a great point. Thank you.
The project costs, are they forecasted on the let date being in that year that's set there, 2025, or if it shifts left or right, does that project cost go up or down based on inflation or other factors? Does that go back, you have to go back to get more money?
There's inflation built. These numbers are based on a 2025 let date. So there's inflation in there. If we let them today, most likely they'll come in a little bit.
So if they shift to the right, then you're going to have that price go up.
Right, if we keep pushing on that.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Questions?
Judge, I forgot to mention the schedule here. This is, the action today would be to consider initiating public involvement. There'll be a 15-day comment period starting on Monday, June 26th, ending on July 10th. We're having a public meeting tentatively scheduled for the 27th. That could change. And then we'll bring this back next month for final approval.
This was one I believe we had extra concern about. There may be the possibility that the dates don't line up between the approval process and when the information is needed to be approved in TxDOT. So with the board's knowledge or consensus again, I would ask that as you see the schedule here, we anticipate that all these projects need to be in the system approved by July 14th. This policy board does not meet again until the 19th for actual approval. Should we not receive any comments or need any revisions, that I would go ahead and approve those and have you ratify that action at the July meeting, so we can upload that information and get it into the state by the time they need it. Unless there are concerns with that action.
What happens if you do receive comments, or there's a hiccup and we don't meet till the 19th?
I think we would just need to coordinate additional efforts with the state to let them know that we've run into that issue.
Do you have to hold all the projects, or can you just hold the project that had comments?
We could do that.
That way you're not holding all of them up, you're just holding whatever has the comments.
And we could, yeah, we could pull the one, and of course, we'd still have discussion on all of them and actual approval on the other. We could go ahead and
Not to
approve.
be territorial, just don't hold up the loop.
No comments.
But that, yeah, the action needed today is to approve the public involvement for these amendments.
If you had some changes requested or comments, I think it would be called a meeting a week earlier instead of meeting on the 19th. Still would be good because comment period goes through the 15th.
Yeah, well,
It ends the 10th.
so, I mean,
We wouldn't be done.
technically we could just have the, I guess, the policy board meet directly following needed.
And this is all if July 14th is when they need them, that's the date that they informed us of, but they're waiting on approval of the May revision from FHWA, and so it's all dependent on when they get approval, then they can start the process for the August revision. And they don't know when they'll get that, so.
Move to approve opening for public comment.
We've got a motion to approve and initiate public comment. And a second, any further discussion on item number 6? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, and thank you, James, for that wealth of information. Item number 7 on the agenda is discussion and action item regarding resolution 2023-07, supporting PM2 bridge pavement performance targets. That was items pages 42 through 47 in your packet. James.
Yes, Judge, the PM2 bridge pavement performance targets is one of 7 federally required performance measures that the MPO must track and report on since the FAST Act was passed in 2015. For the pavement and bridge conditions, there are 7 different measures included with this set of targets. And it's the percentage of pavements on the interstate system in good condition and poor condition, percentage of pavements on the non-interstate NHS in good and poor condition. And then for the bridges, it's the percent of bridges classified as good, fair, and poor. TxDOT does do statewide data collection and review of conditions for the interstate and non-interstate NHS, all the bridges. They're on a 4-year cycle where they set targets for years, year 2 and year 4, and then they, in the middle of that, once year 2 is hit, they reevaluate. We just started a new cycle with targets set for 2024 and 2026. And I'll go through some of those here. So this is the performance progress report that the state submitted to for 2022, and you can see on the far right column is the actual performance in 2022 for the interstate system and the non-interstate system. 64.5% was in good condition, 0.1% in poor, and then 57.8% was in good for the non-interstate, and 11.6% was in poor condition. This slide shows the KTMPO region's conditions. For good, we were at 86.74% in 2020, 0% poor, and for the non-interstate, 65.28% and 4.82% poor. We didn't have regional information for 2022, so this is the latest available, but we are exceeding the statewide averages for all categories. Here are the targets that the state has set for the whole state. 2024 2-year target is 63.9% of the interstate system in good condition and 0.2% in poor. And then for 2026, the good drops to 63.6% and the poor stays the same. For non-interstate, it's 45.5%, 1.5%, and then 46% and 1.5%. I will make a note about these. I'll go back to the previous. You'll notice that the non-interstate poor condition, it's quite high here, and the reporting for 2020 and 2022 is a lot higher than the 1.5% that's the new target. They've changed in between the last cycle and this cycle. They've changed the way that they're evaluating pavement condition. It used to be there was one metric that they were looking at, and if you failed, you failed. Now there are 3 different metrics, and you have to fail 2 of them to be considered poor. So it's eliminated a lot of, it's really honing in on what's actually poor and what's still okay. So that's why that number is so low. So those 2 columns on the right, those would be the targets that we would adopt. Like I said, we don't have regional had the time to evaluate for the region specifically. And so in the past, we have adopted the statewide targets and are recommending to do that again. Before I go on to the bridge performances, I can take any questions about the pavement performance targets.
You said they changed the standards on how they graded the bridges from 1 factor to 3 factor. Can you elaborate a little bit on what they changed?
So this is for pavement, the pavement targets, and it's, I can get you the actual, but it's, and Mike Gates, I think last time you talked about it, maybe a little bit. It's like running, and there's 3 different things they look at when they look at pavement. And
so IRI is one of them.
yeah,
And then there's a distress score that is tied into cracking and that kind of stuff. And skid is the third one. So traction, basically. Those are the three factors that factor into it. The distress score is by far the largest contributor, but IRI and skid still play into it.
and I think previously, at least from what I saw, they used to only use IRI, or they used IRI only, and so now they're using the other 2 also.
So they're not really weighted in, they're just 1, 2 of 3, or is the IRI still going to be higher weighted?
I think they have a standard set, or there's if you are above this score for each of the 3, they evaluate the pavement, and if it fails to meet the standard for 2 of those 3,
so they're not weighted.
I don't think it's weighted. I think it's just, if you meet it, you meet it, great, and if you don't, then.
Just from a structural engineering perspective, if something's going to fail, we want to have the most important critical factor of that road to be weighted. So that way you would be rating it against that. Not a single 1 of 3 or 2 of 3.
Yeah. Move on to the bridge condition. TxDOT evaluates bridge condition by square footage. It's not by bridge, it's by the deck area. And so there's good, fair, and poor condition. These are for the KTMPO region. In 2022, we were at 65.3% of our bridges were in good condition, 34.2% in fair, and 0.6% in poor condition of the bridge deck area. There's a chart, and all this information is in your packet, but it just shows good, fair, and poor. And here are the targets set by the state. And again, these are statewide targets, so we're above them. The baseline, the 2-year target is 48.5% good, 1.5% poor, and 50% fair. And then in 2026, the good percentage drops by 47.6%, and the poor is 1.5, fair, 50.9. There is a resolution included in your packet that lists the different targets for bridge and pavement conditions. It's on page 46 and 47. 47 has the 2 tables. Any questions on the bridge targets?
James, if I could just interject, tonight on PBS Nova, the program is Why Bridges Fail. May not be of any interest to any engineers in here, but it might be of interest. It pertains possibly to some of this.
Unless there are other questions, Judge, that's all I have. The TAC did recommend approval of this resolution on June 7th, on their June 7th meeting.
Thank you, James. I think it's a worthy point to note that if you notice on the pavement condition reports, it's broken down between interstate and non-interstate. That's the way that metric works. Under the bridge condition, I believe, I hope I'm not stepping too far outside my bounds, because that is a federal mandated inspection cycle. that there's no distinction between the interstate or on-system bridges versus off-system. It is a collective aggregate. So that's why you do not see a individual breakout on the bridges. That is the aggregate within our region. So with that, I'd open the floor to any other discussions, questions, comments. If there are none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2023-07.
We have a motion to approve resolution 2023-07 and a second. Any further discussion on item number 7? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Again, thank you, James. Item number 8 on the agenda is a discussion item regarding updates on the KTMPO work groups. Ryan?
All right. Moving right along. This will be a standing update. I just want to let everybody know, we did make the work group appointments for the safety performance measure targets, the bylaws, and the scoring criteria. 2 of those work groups are scheduled to meet today, directly following policy board meeting. The bylaws work group will meet in A1 up at the front of the building, and the scoring work group will meet in here. These are just introductory meetings. Information for the safety target measure work group will be sent out, if it hasn't already, early next week with a date, just as a preliminary meeting. These work groups are really just to review the materials that everybody's being provided, see if we can get some insight from members of the policy board. We felt it was good to have work groups, to kind of have smaller groups for better discussion back and forth, and those groups can report to the policy board where changes, revisions may or may not be needed in our different, like our bylaws, our scoring criteria for our upcoming project call, and for the safety performance measures. So like I said, we're moving right along with that. If you wanted to be part of a work group and you didn't get an email appointing you, please let me know. If you did get an email and you didn't want to be part of a work group, please let me know.
Too late now.
And like I said, these work groups, hopefully they'll be concluded in the next 3 to 6 months, but it'll be a standing update to provide the board with where we are in the progress from here on out. Are there any questions on the work groups?
Great, thank you for the update, Ryan. Moving on to item number 9, which is also a discussion item regarding updates on the Safe Streets and Roads for All, the SS4A grant application. Ryan.
All right, as many of you may recall, last year, SITCOG, KTMPO, and Corio County applied jointly for a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. We were actually awarded that grant February 1st of this year. We are currently going through the process of getting an agreement between Federal Highways and SITCOG. That process is not a rapid process, but it has moved up to the grants office in DC. And once we have that agreement in place, we can start our actual planning efforts under that program. There was something else. The RFP has been released with the closing date of that is
July 10th, I believe.
July 10th. We'll open those, and then we will internally score and take the top two or three to the COG board, with possibly some inclusion of KTMPO and a couple members of KTMPO policy board and Corio County to determine which consultant to select. So staff aren't making that. Staff won't be making that decision. With that, I'm open to any questions on the grant process, where we stand.
Questions? I do want to note, and I believe I've said this before, but I just want to reiterate for the group. The reason that Coryell County is a joint applicant as opposed to other counties is that Coryell County had initiated the grant application for this particular grant prior to SITCOG and KTMPO taking action. And because of that, when SITCOG and KTMPO also wanted to engage in this, we have some overlapping boundaries, which then Federal Highways reached back out and said, because you've got joint jurisdictions here, we need some resolution. And the resolution that we came to that we thought was best for everyone involved was that it became an overall joint application. And it wasn't to say Coryell County has a distinction above and beyond any of the other entities in the region. That wasn't the case. It was just that the timing of it was such that we would have had to, or Coryell County would have had to withdraw their application. And I don't think that that would have been the best thing for the county as a standalone. So just want to make that clear as we move forward and we talk about this, you're going to see Coryell County. The reason simply was that we had already initiated that application prior to SITCOG or KTMPO. So if y'all want to crucify me, do it now. Got an open floor, open forum to. Okay. And again, I'm sure this item will be on here pretty much for this next several months coming up. It's a great program. Anything else? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 10 on the agenda, which again is a discussion item regarding updates on the possible MPO boundary expansions. You're right.
Thank you, Judge. And this will be much like the last one and maybe the next item on the agenda. These are discussion items that will carry forward month to month. I've been reporting on this since late last year, since the census concluded. We're still waiting on some financial information from TxDOT. I know they are working on the UTP diligently. Hopefully I'll have some resolution on what the financial impact may be for us to expand, or when we may be able to anticipate receiving that information from TxDOT in the coming weeks or months. But I believe a lot of their effort right now is being put into this UTP process. Once I have more, I'll be able to provide more information to the board, but at this time, we're kind of in a holding pattern waiting for financial information from TxDOT. Any questions?
All right, hearing none, thank you, Ryan. We'll move on to item number 11 on the agenda, which again is a discussion item regarding the update from TxDOT on the 2024 solar eclipse.
All right. TxDOT, we did reach out, Judge. Victor provided me some information. There's another individual at TxDOT I need to speak with. I haven't had a chance to speak with him yet. Victor provided me with some information he received from another county in Texas. TxDOT is undergoing some planning efforts for the solar eclipse. At some point, I'd like to get somebody to kind of talk about transportation, because it's one of the main concerns of any of these eclipse scenarios. So once I do have somebody from TxDOT, I'll be able to get them scheduled to provide any update the state may have for planning activities.
Yeah, I'm on the kind of capital planning committee to discuss effects of transportation effects of the eclipse. We haven't had a formal meeting with TxDOT yet. There's a lot of research going on to this location. Also, the Waco area, they have a separate organization that I sit on there. Just informational more than anything right now. That's a little closer to what we have meetings. General feedback I've gotten already, and it's really just informational, is that the biggest transportation concerns occurred after the eclipse. People kind of filter in slowly. The eclipse is going to be on Monday. People will filter in across the weekend. When the eclipse is over, everybody wants to go
that's probably the project part emphasis is managing traffic and supporting this communities after those people follow.
Gotcha. And then I think last time Judge Miller alluded to, we possibly need to take into account in our planning efforts as we move through this process, not just those people that are going to leave directly following the eclipse, but those people that want to follow it as it travels through the region. Yeah, it's, I think it's 4 minutes or something in certain cities, but 4 minutes, it'll last a lifetime.
Any other questions, comments on TxDOT's involvement with the solar eclipse of 2024? I will say as a side note, and Stan touched on it, you know, it's follow up. I know for Coyle County, I will have a declaration of local disaster that I will initiate on that Friday or Saturday prior to the event. And then that will allow us, you know, for my authorities to have a 10-day window, about a 7-day window of recovery period. And so I would recommend to all the entities that y'all take a look at how you factor that in the event that the state deems that there's some financial or fiscal recoveries that can be made following this event. So, anything else for item number 11? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 12, which is a discussion item regarding an update from TxDOT on major construction projects in the KTMPO area. That was covered in pages 58 through 61 of the packet that went out.
We do have Michael Yates from TxDOT to present.
Hey everybody, so I'm Mike Yates, if you don't already know me, I'm the area engineer for TxDOT in the Belton area office. So this is the same presentation I gave to TAC. I'll have to probably update a couple things over the last couple weeks, but it's basically just the projects that we're doing here in Belton County. So as we talk about in every one of our meetings, last full day on the Texas roadway was November 7th of 2000. It's been almost 23 years. We are trying to bring attention in every one of our meetings. I think you'll see in almost every presentation TxDOT gives that this slide is in that presentation. So our first project is the State Loop 121 widening. They are currently in what we call phase 2, which we have done some temporary widenings, and we have traffic shifted to the southbound side, and while we build the widening for the northbound side. James Construction Group is doing the project. Currently the project is doing well on time. They're making good progress. We expect them to be in this phase until roughly the middle of September. As long as, you know, they don't run into any weather challenges or anything like that. In September, we will do a traffic switch. Currently that cross section there kind of shows how traffic is currently, and then we'll basically flip it to the other side, and then they'll start building the other half of the road, which we'll expect the phase 3 to take about a year. And we're expecting that project to finish fall of next year. So next project, I'll probably take this off the next set of slides. Apache Drive project substantially complete. It's a sidewalk project in Temple. These are all on City of Temple streets, but I believe it actually went through this committee and for funding and stuff. So it's substantially complete. We're basically just working on some minor punch list items. Statesburg 290 is the same way. Project is in the process of being closed out. Actually, I think we just made our final payment on it, and so it should be closed out very soon. I-14, the Olinville project, it's substantially complete. We're taking care of punch list items right now. I believe that if you guys drove out there, probably tonight, they should be hanging bridge clearance signs, and we have some ITS work and some lighting work, and that's about all that's left on it. And it has actually already been increased to 75 miles an hour on the speeds. Belton widening project, this is a project that James Construction Group's been working on I-14. It is substantially complete. as of last week. They still have some minor punch list items. They are doing some frontage road striping, hanging some signs still, and then working through punch lists. They actually did a preliminary punch list and they have almost everything on it done, so we really get close to finishing this one up. US 190 Rogers bypass. This one we expect to start in or to be completed late next year. They're doing a lot of earthwork right now. This project had something like 1.5 million yards of export. That's kind of what they're doing right now. They're doing a lot of their mass grading. We did do a fairly significant track switch in early May. If you drive out east, you will have noticed that the traffic patterns quite a bit different than it was previously. So that's going on that one. FY2022 this project is substantially complete. We're working on punch list items on it. They had some minor ditch grading to finish up and some seeding, and then just some little signs here and there. FY2022 we have set barricades on this project. It is, last week I think we set barricades. It was awarded to Tex Material Group, approximately $9.5 million. Their upcoming work right now, probably we'll start seeing them doing some tree clearing and removal of vegetation stuff starting next week. And then in the next week or two after that, you'll start seeing them working on culvert extensions and cross culverts. They have agreed to do the mill and inlay project or work for this project on the west end by the high school in Harker Heights. They have agreed to move that to the beginning of the project so that we can get that work done before school starts. Should be completed next summer. State Highway 95 bridge project. This project is awarded to James Construction Group. We will see construction start early next month. They ran into some challenges getting materials for the bearing seats and the beams, and so that's why they won't see it. You actually see actual work start next month. But this will start with prep right of way, vegetation removal, grading, some temporary widening for shifting traffic, and then we'll be demoing half the bridge for 2 bridges, building a new one, switching traffic, demoing the other half of the bridge. I believe this is 4 bridges. It's 1 bridge south of and then 3 bridges north. And I believe they're going to start with the 2 furthest south bridges first. So, project should be complete late summer of 25. Because it's phased construction on the bridges, it takes kind of stretches that project out. So, during construction on these, there will be 1 lane only over the bridges, and so that's going to be set with temporary traffic signals. So anybody that drives on State Highway 95 should expect to see some delays as they're crossing those bridges. We have 2 medium barrier projects that recently led. One is on I-14 from Mill Springs to FY2022. Both of these projects basically consist of us using our existing precast traffic barrier that we're going to place on the roadway in lieu of doing something like cable rail. We found when we started these projects that the cable rail had very, very long lead times, and this was a way for us to deliver the projects more quickly using our own stockpiles of concrete rail. So that's basically what both of these projects are. A contractor called the SCR got the I-14 project. They're actually the contractor that did our 317 bridge we had over Leon River this last summer. And then the other project is James Construction. They are going to be very short duration projects. They're very quick. So, and it should be minimal traffic impacts. Most of the work is outside the traffic. So that is everything. All the projects I had to talk about. I'll do the same thing I did in the TAC meeting. We are also doing the mill and inlay project on I-14. The Gatesville area office is managing that project. I believe they finished the westbound side and have it temporary striped, and they are either getting ready to or have already started milling on the eastbound side. So, does anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
The
There was some textile trucks around FM 2044 and 1670, but that wasn't one of your projects. Is that a project coming up soon?
So we do have a project on the books. Victor might be able to speak to this one a little better than I can. There is a project on the books to do a rehab and widening on 2484. I don't remember what the letting,
It's a ways out there. We haven't designed yet. So
it's like a 26 project. I think.
Looked like you're working on traffic signal on 1670.
I do believe that there is a signal going in there. I'd have to check on it. But I don't remember what the timing was.
All right, thank you, as always. Any questions or anything to discuss, or questions from Mike or staff concerning textile? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 13, which is a discussion item regarding one of my favorite topics, public input. James.
We have one comment. Ryan saw this on Facebook. There was an individual concerned with the narrow bridges on State Highway 95, which Mike just shared. They're working on it, so it's done. Taking care of it already. That's all.
Very good. Moving on to item number 14, member comments. Comments from the group. You can share. Hearing none. Item number 15, I have 10:39 and we stand adjourned. Thank you all.